The Lady in Red. It was a quiet night in May of 2018 on the south side of Kauai. Officer Keone Akana had just started his patrol along Poipu Road. The air was warm, thick with the scent of the ocean breeze, and the streets were mostly empty. A calm night as he liked it. As he drove past the familiar landmarks of the tourist town, something caught his eye. Up ahead, a woman in red was walking slowly along the side of the road. Her red dress was long, flowing in the faint wind, and her dark hair cascaded down her back like waves. Officer Akana squinted, trying to make sense of it. It was unusual to see someone walking alone out there at this time of night, especially a woman dressed like she was headed to an evening event. Concerned, he decided to stop and check on her. He slowed his cruiser and pulled up alongside her. "Ma'am, are you all right?" he called out, rolling down his window. As she gave no response, she kept walking, her gaze fixed ahead as if she hadn't heard him. Officer Akana frowned. It was odd, but maybe she was just lost in thought. He pulled his car to the shoulder, parked, and stepped out. The gravel crunched under his boots as he closed the door behind him. "Excuse me, miss," he called out, but when he looked up, she was gone. The road ahead was empty. The woman in red had vanished. Keone stood frozen for a moment, blinking in disbelief. His eyes darted across the landscape, scanning the road, the trees lining the sides, but there was no sign of her. He rubbed his neck, feeling the chill down his spine. "Must be the shadows," he muttered to himself. He quickly got back in his cruiser, flicked on the searchlights, and swept the area again. Nothing. Just the endless stretch of the road and the quiet rustle of palm trees in the distance. Unsettled, but refusing to believe in anything supernatural, he shook it off and drove on. It was just his mind playing tricks, he thought. But a few minutes later, something in the rearview mirror made his heart skip a beat. Movement. He glanced up again. There, in the back seat, was the faint outline of someone sitting. His chest tightened as he hit the brakes and swerved to the side of the road, right by the old missionary church. In a rush, he turned on the interior lights, his hand already reaching for his gun as he jumped out of the cruiser. He pulled open the back door, the one that could only open from the outside. His breath caught in his throat. The back seat was empty. Officer Akana slammed the door shut and took a step back, his pulse pounding in his ears. What the hell was happening? His rational mind couldn't explain it, but his instincts were screaming that something was very wrong. The rest of his shift passed in a blur. Every shadow, every movement out of the corner of his eye felt off. The image of the lady in red haunted him, her face still a mystery, her presence lingering like an unsettled ghost. He couldn't get her out of his head, but buried the experience deep. He wasn't the kind to believe in spirits or ghost stories. It wasn't until he returned to the station after his shift that the real blow came. A phone call. His voice caught in his throat as he answered, recognizing the number. His family home in Leilani Estates on the Big Island had been destroyed. The lava flow of Kilauea had consumed the house, leaving nothing behind. His heart sank as the news washed over him. The destruction of the land and the fiery wrath of the volcano was relentless. Suddenly, the image of the woman in red resurfaced in his mind. Was it just a coincidence? He had heard of the old legends, of course, of Madam Pele appearing in many forms, sometimes as a beautiful woman, other times as a haggard elder, always a warning of things to come. He had never believed the stories, dismissing them as mere superstition, but now he wasn't so sure. He remembered the way she walked, how she seemed untouchable, unreachable, as if she existed on a different realm. The mysterious movement in the back seat, the strange disappearance, had it all been a sign? Officer Keone Akana sat in his car, staring out into the dark, quiet Kauai night. The weight of the legend of Pele pressed down on him like the heat of the molten lava destroying his family home. He had once been a skeptic, but after that night on Poipu Road, he was a believer. Some say Pele visits those who do not believe, making herself known in ways that were impossible to deny. For Officer Akana, her message was clear, and from that night forward, he never doubted the power of the supernatural again.